Hey there, Will Smith here with SBE. And today I'm going to talk to you about the accountability process and how to make accountability a superpower for you. I was talking to a contractor years ago and I said, it sounds like you have an accountability problem. He goes, yeah, I think you're right. And I'm like, well, what's the right way to hold people accountable? And he goes, I don't know. What is the right way to hold people accountable? And I said, I don't know. Let's Google it. So we went on the Google and I typed in the right way to hold people accountable. And I just typed in the right way to hold people accountable. And I found Harvard Business Review, HBR. If you Google this, you'll find this article. It's just brilliant. And today, what I did is I put together a little presentation on this. And it's called the accountability process, and it's based on that article. I've been using this process now for years. And if you struggle with holding your people accountable, you probably have experienced some of the problems that happen when accountability, isn't happening. Uh, no visible progress. You ever look at your people and think to yourself, that's like the spinning wheel of death. Like, I know that something's happening, but I don't see any progress. Or what you do see is they're completely missing the target. Like you thought you were clear on what you wanted, and they're out there just firing the gun in all different directions. They're not even hitting the target. Or you look around, and you're like, these people, they don't even care. And all of those point back to a lack of accountability in my mind. And if you have these things going on, if people don't seem to be making progress, they're missing the target, or they just don't seem to care, the fear, as the owner of the business, the fear now is what you're going to end up with is um, a situation where everyone loses. The business loses. Those employees of yours who you had high hopes for when you finally found them and hired them, they lose. Their families lose. Everybody, your customers lose. So for every problem, there's an opportunity. What's the opportunity? The opportunity is to become the master of hard skills. It's not that life gets easier. It doesn't. Life gets harder and harder and harder. And it's not that we need life to be easier. What we need to do is be stronger and be better and better at doing hard things. And so what we want to do instead of the no visible progress, that be able to master hard skills so we can crush our personal goals. When you have people that are mastering hard things and they're crushing personal goals, what you end up with is a team full of people that are helping each other out. And when everybody starts getting better and stronger and then hitting their own personal goals and then reaching back to help others, you have a very powerful thing in your organization. It's really, it ends up being peer-to-peer accountability, peer-to-peer accountability. And that's a really exciting thing when that happens. And when that happens, everybody wins. We all win together. And that's the goal of this whole thing. So what I want to go over is from that article, and this has been, you'll see some differences because I've been using it for so many years that I've kind of fine-tuned each of the 5 steps. But let's take a look at them. There's 5 big ideas. Big idea number 1 is align your interest. This is one of my favorite stories ever. So we had a technician. This is probably back in 2016, 2017. We were just getting started. We did goal setting. We said, hey, you did about 350,000 in revenue last year. You made $60,000. What would you like to make an income this year? So we're aligning interests. What are your personal goals? He says, I want to make $69,000. We said, why so specific? What are you going to do with that $9,000? He goes, well, I want to load up my family and take them to Disneyland. I want to get the station wagon like in the movies and pack up my family and to go on a road trip and go to Disneyland. And we said, okay. And we worked out the math. We said, we will get you to $69,000 and make that trip to Disneyland happen. A year later, I asked him, okay, so how'd it go? He goes, well, I paid cash for that trip. No kidding. Congratulations. The trip was amazing. Paid cash for it. No credit, all that kind of stuff. How much did you end up making for the year? $96,000. His goal was 69. How in the world did that happen? Well, we aligned our interests. So, in the result of aligning our interests, we got him fired up about his personal goals, and he worked very hard to accomplish those, and he hit them. But the result of him working harder is the revenue went up dramatically. He doubled his revenue. He probably did well over $700,000 to earn that almost 100 grand. We've got to align our interest, and it starts with understanding their personal goals. Big idea number 2 is prepare to win. Muhammad Ali, he famously quoted, the guy says, "How many push-ups can you do?" He goes, "I don't even start counting till it hurts." He wouldn't jump in the ring unless he was ready. And nobody would, professional boxer would get in the ring unless they went to work and they trained and they trained and they trained. Once you've aligned your interests and you know that everybody is rowing in the same direction, now we have to ask ourselves, do you have the skills and abilities to get to your destination of whatever it is you want to go? Or, can you make it to Disneyland? Is that even possible for you? And if it is, what are the skills and abilities we're going to need to help you with in order for you to get there? We have to prepare to win. Big idea number 3 is create a scoreboard. Scoreboards create the excitement and the energy. It's fun when you score a touchdown. Like, it's a big deal. And having a scoreboard that you can look at, it holds you accountable. I had a technician tell me once, he goes, "Will, I knew the meeting was coming on Tuesday morning, and it was Friday, and I'd been slacking off all week, and I knew I was working on Saturday, so I buckled down, I got focused, and on Saturday I made a bunch of maintenance agreement sales. I turned over a sales lead. I sold some IQ products because I didn't want to come to the Tuesday meeting with a 0. Like, he was lazy all week long, and he got focused on one day, had a great success, and it was all because he knew there was a scoreboard coming. Scoreboard is how we track and measure, and it's how we hold people accountable to the goal they said they wanted to accomplish. If you track and measure it, we can see very clearly you either did or you did not do the thing that you said you wanted to do. So we need a scoreboard. If you don't have a scoreboard, you need to get one. And matter of fact, it's not a goal if you can't track and measure it on a scoreboard with math. Big idea number 4 is make them important. This is a fun picture I found. This teenage kid, 15-year-old kid, got the umbrella out for this old guy. It's a hailstorm, and he was basically just serving this guy and protecting him in a hailstorm. And that's kind of what we want to do with our people is they're out there fighting for their goals. It's not always going to be pretty. Sometimes they're going to fail, like big time. They're getting pummeled by giant hailstones in the face. And your job is to go grab the umbrella and protect them. We got to bring them in, and we got to make them important. And that's really the focus of that metaphor, is make them important. Do you know that most contractors, what they'll do is they'll sit down and set personal goals with their people, and then they'll train them. They'll train the snot out of them, and they'll even track and measure their progress. But you know where they fail? Is they don't make that person important after that by bringing them in to check on progress toward the goal. Like, how's it going? Are you winning or are you losing? What's working? What's not working? Share your wins and your successes, and tell me about your failures and review their progress. The biggest mistake you can make is to tell somebody that you want them to go do great things for your company, and so they can do great things for themselves, and then send them off and then not ever look at it again. But if you bring them back in like a week later and you review progress toward their goal, if they're winning, this is an opportunity to deliver a positive consequence. If they're losing, it's an opportunity to deliver a help them consequence. I'm going to talk about that in a second. But the mistake, I lost my train of thought. The mistake is that instead, what you do is you say, okay, well, we're going to get together and review progress toward your goal. And the meeting's on the schedule. You're the owner of the company. You just told one of your employees you're going to meet with them to personally help them accomplish their goals. At that moment, they feel important. And then Tuesday at 7 comes along, and something more important comes up, and you cancel that meeting. What's the message you just sent to that person? They're not that important. Don't make that mistake. Schedule those review meetings because it's a big deal. And don't cancel them. So big idea number 4 is make them important. You're there to serve. Be a servant to your people. Big idea number 5, and the last one is deliver a consequence. If most people screw up on step number 4, everybody screws up on step number 5. There must be consequences. If they're winning, there must be a positive consequence, a pat on the back, a high five, some type of acknowledgement that they did this thing that they said they wanted to do. If they're not getting it done, if they're not getting it done, if there's it's not a negative consequence. It's like we got to help them. Like what's causing them to fail? We got to go back and review. Was this a good goal in the first place? And if it was a good goal and it's still something you want to accomplish, what's causing you to fail and how can I help you get around it? And then send them back out and track and measure and bring them back in and rinse and repeat until they get it. And at some point, if they come in and they fail week after week after week after week, when do you finally decide that, it's time to give up on that person? And for us, the answer is never. The only time that we ever decide it's time to go to the third consequence, which is what we call a career adjustment, is if they don't care. As long as they care, we keep helping them. If we decide, look, was this a good goal? And they go, yeah. It seems to me you don't care. And they go, yeah, I don't care. Well, you can't work here anymore. We can't have people on the team that don't care about accomplishing their goals. If you're watching this live, in the chat, just type in accountability for the worksheets. We'll get you a copy of the worksheets. If you're watching this on replay, just hit the download button, get a copy of the worksheets. I'm going to switch to the worksheets right now. All your technicians have mutually agreed upon goals. You're tracking on a scorecard and you review progress on a weekly basis. And make accountability your superpower. And here's how you do it. We just talked about it. Step 1 is mutually agreed upon goals. You don't just want the company goals, though, do you? You want your personal goals. You want their income goals. Is it a trip to Disneyland? Is it a Harley Davidson? Is it a new ring for their fiance? And then tie that to revenue goals. And that way, their goals and our goals can align. We've now aligned our goals. And then capabilities. What kind of training do they need? What kind of tools or resources? And here's the big question. If they're not succeeding, if it's not working, the question that you want to ask there is what's causing you to fail? And by the way, they're the ones who have the answer to that. They know exactly what the actual problem is. And then track and measure. What are you tracking and measuring, by the way? If it's a service technician, it's how many calls are they running? By call type, maintenance calls or demand calls. It's going to have a different average ticket. What's their close rate on maintenance agreement or IAQ sales? How many of those systems are over 10 years old? And how many of those 10-year-old systems are turning in to replacement leads or replacements altogether? So track and measure your progress. Got to make sure you have the data. And then schedule time for regular review. If you watch the goals coaching model video, or if you haven't seen it, go watch it. But use that goals coaching model process so you can look at goal versus actual, find out what's working, find out what's not working, identify any gaps, and make sure you give them all the training and support that they need if they're not winning. So, by the way, I thought about this. One way to look at that is if something's working, that's a positive consequence. Find out what those positive consequences are. It doesn't just have to be money. It could be praise, recognition. It could be paid time off. If something's not working, the consequence there is help them. How do you help them? Repeat steps 1 through 4. Was Was this a good goal in the first place? And if it was a good goal, what's causing you to fail? How can I help you? What do you need? And then go back to work and bring them back in a week later and find out what's working, what's not working, and repeat, rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. If you find out they don't care, they can't stay, you've got to give them what I like to call a career adjustment. But because of the space provided, I'm just going to say it's time to move on. And that's it. If you set personal goals, income goals, revenue goals. You give them whatever training and support they need. You track and measure with data. You bring them in for regular review and identify what's working, what's not working. You give them positive consequences. You give them help them consequences. And you let them know that if they care, you'll help them to infinity. And if they don't care, well, they're just going to have to move on. You will have a very, very high level of accountability. And accountability will now be your superpower. If you were of the mind of, I'm not good at holding people accountable because I don't like confrontation, I don't like conflict, think about what we just talked about. Where does confrontation and conflict live in this model? It's not in there. There's never a moment when you have to get frustrated or upset. Just sit down and find out what they want. Do they care? What are their goals and how can you help them? Track and measure their progress and then review progress toward their goal on a regular basis and make sure that you deliver consequences. Positively reinforce the things that you like, help them on the things that you don't like, and they will improve. So there you go. What are your takeaways? What's the one thing that you would take away from this idea that would make the biggest impact? And I would encourage you to schedule the meeting to do personal goal setting with your people. Schedule the meeting to do a follow-up to review progress. Put it on your schedule. You put it on your schedule, you make them important. You let them know that you're here to help them become the very best that they can possibly be and live up to their potential. I hope this was helpful today and look forward to hearing back from you any success stories that you have on this topic. And God bless you. Take care. And